Somewhere in Africa, roughly 2 million years ago, a small-brained hominin did something that no creature on this planet had ever done before. It laughed. Not at a joke, not at a punchline, not at anything, really, that modern humans would recognize as funny. And yet, the sound it made was unmistakable. A rapid, rhythmic, breathy exhalation. Short bursts of air forced through a larynx that had not yet learned to make words. Here is the strange part. That sound, that ancient wordless bark of air, is still happening, right now. In offices, in living rooms, in hospital waiting rooms, in first dates, humans are doing it constantly, compulsively, often without knowing why.
The question is not what laughter is. The question is what laughter was for, before we had anything to laugh at. The standard story goes something like this. Something funny happens. A joke lands. A situation becomes absurd. And laughter is the response. The punctuation mark at the end of a comedic sentence. This is the story humans tell about themselves, and it feels completely reasonable. It is also, according to the science, almost entirely backwards. Robert Provine, a neuroscientist at the University of Maryland, spent years cataloging when people actually laugh, not in comedy clubs, but in real conversations. What he found, published in 1993 in The American Scientist, was that only 10 to 20% of laughter follows anything remotely resembling a joke. The other 80%? It follows perfectly ordinary sentences. I'll see you later. That was a long week. Where have you been? But here's what actually happened. To find the real origin of laughter, the search has to go back further than language, further than fire, further than stone tools. Back to the trees. Primatologist Jan van Hoof at the University of Utrecht identified two distinct facial displays in great apes in the early 1970s. One he called the silent bared teeth display, what looks like a smile, but functions as submission, a signal that says, I am not a threat. The other was the relaxed open mouth display, a panting, rhythmic sound made during rough and tumble play. Not fear, not aggression, play. That second display is the direct evolutionary ancestor of human laughter.
Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and bonobos all produce versions of it. But their laughter is different from ours in one critical way. Chimpanzee laughter happens only on the exhale, one burst per breath. Humans, uniquely among primates, can laugh across both inhalation and exhalation. That seemingly minor anatomical quirk, a consequence of the descended larynx that also gave humans speech, transformed a short social grunt into something far more powerful. It gave laughter duration. It gave it melody. It made it audible across larger social distances. And that mattered enormously. Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford has argued that laughter is a form of social grooming, the vocal equivalent of picking parasites off a fellow primate's back. Physical grooming can only work one-on-one. Laughter, Dunbar's research suggests, can bond a group of 3 to 5 individuals simultaneously, triggering the same endorphin release that physical touch produces. Laughter was not a response to humor. It was a technology. Think about what early Homo faced. Groups of 20 to 50 individuals, shifting alliances, constant negotiation over food, status, and mating access, all without the benefit of complex language. Laughter was social glue applied at scale. It said, without words, I am safe. You are safe. We are, for this moment, aligned. Matthew Gervais and David Sloan Wilson at Binghamton University drew a distinction in 2005 that helps clarify the entire evolutionary picture. They separated Duchenne laughter, the involuntary, spontaneous kind triggered by genuine positive arousal, from non-Duchenne laughter, the deliberate, socially performed kind. Duchenne laughter is ancient. It predates language, predates complex cognition, predates Homo sapiens entirely. Non-Duchenne laughter is the new invention. It is the laughter humans deploy consciously, strategically, to soften a blow, to signal approval, to include or exclude.
Here is the irony that most people walk right past. The species that invented stand-up comedy, that built entire economies around making people laugh, that species uses laughter as a weapon more often than as a reflex. Office laughter at a manager's mediocre joke, nervous laughter in a difficult silence, the polite chuckle that says, "I heard you, I acknowledge you, please stop looking at me." Sophie Scott at University College London has shown through neuroimaging studies that the brain processes genuine and performed laughter through entirely different neural pathways. The involuntary kind lights up subcortical structures, the deep, ancient circuitry. The performed kind recruits the prefrontal cortex. The same sound, two completely different cognitive operations. One is 2 million years old. The other is entirely social theater. Return to that African plain. Return to that small-brained hominin making a sound no creature had ever made. It was probably not alone. The current hypothesis, developed across Dunbar's work at Oxford and Provine's field research, is that laughter did not emerge as individual behavior. It emerged as contagion. The sound spread because the brain was already wired to mirror it. A laugh triggers a laugh, which triggers another, which cascades through a group. This is why laugh tracks work, why laughter in a theater sounds louder than any individual response, why humans laugh more in the presence of others than alone, roughly 30 times more, according to Provine's research. The first human who laughed almost certainly made others laugh immediately after, and something irreversible shifted in the social world of the species. There is one more layer to this, and it may be the strangest of all. Recent research into the neuroscience of tickling, yes, tickling, has illuminated something fundamental about where laughter lives in the brain. Neuroscientist Michael Brecht at Humboldt University in Berlin published findings in 2016 showing that ticklishness and laughter are rooted in the same region, the somatosensory cortex, specifically the area that processes light touch on vulnerable body surfaces. Humans cannot tickle themselves. Neither can rats, who also laugh, at frequencies too high for human hearing, as Jaak Panksepp at Washington State University demonstrated in the early 2000s. This is not a quirk. This is the design. Laughter requires another. It has always required another. It is the oldest proof the species has that it was never meant to be alone.
Here is what changes when humans understand this. The next time laughter surfaces unexpectedly, not at a joke, not at anything clearly funny, but in a tense moment, or a sad one, or one of those social silences that stretches just a second too long, that is not an accident. That is 2 million years of social wiring doing exactly what it evolved to do. Laughter is not the response to something funny. It is the signal that the ancient circuitry has evaluated the social situation and decided, we are safe, we are aligned, this moment can be released. And somewhere, in a lineage that stretches back to an ape playing in the dust of an ancient continent, that signal has been working. It never needed a punchline. Neither, it turns out, do we.